This disc will introduce the use of kicking and footwork in yin style bagua. In martial arts, we usually speak of kicking, striking, throwing, and grasping. First, speaking of kicking represents all uses of legs and its integration with footwork. Leg techniques can be used on their own. They can also work with and help to coordinate body movement and hand techniques. Adopting different types of footwork and use of legs can also adjust and coordinate many types of developmental methods, uses of force, and changes. Yin style bagua has one animal system that specializes in leg techniques. It is the Dui trigram monkey system and folding palm. That system is known for its specialization in the training of leg usage. Its main leg techniques are bending, stomping, springing, hip, chopping, swinging, finishing, and stamping. Usually we define the bending technique as any use of the leg that begins with it being bent at the knee. For example, a knee strike, or bending the leg in order to change a different use of force, or to change a different position of the body to execute an attack. It could also be defined as using the tip of the toes to attack any place or pressure point to wound the opponent. So there is a point strike bending kick, moving aside bending, lifting up bending, many different types. In yin style bagua, usually 3 types of any one technique are considered to be a standard foundation. The stomping kick. This is using the heel to strike any position on the opponent. There are different types of stomping kicks. A side stomping kick, a straight stomping kick. There's also a turning body climbing stomping. Springing is basically the use of the leg after being bent to straighten it out to attack the opponent. Sometimes we use a lying step springing leg. Sometimes we spring after an inserting leg technique, shooting out springing, sliding in springing. So you can use all different types of footwork to coordinate the use of this leg technique. Using all different types of footwork to coordinate the use of this technique, and also using the leg technique to help get the stepping placed into position. So that's the springing technique. The use of the hip technique. Hip hooking in leg techniques can sliding hook back in. There are inside and outside hooking back in movements. So basically the use of these techniques is to bend the leg in order to scoop or take in. That's the hip leg technique. Next is the chopping leg. The chopping technique. We have a wheeling inward chopping, a lifting up high then smashing chop downward. We also have a chop striking to the opponent with the top of the foot. Swinging is a type of attacking after wheeling the leg out and around for some distance. Swinging your leg like this. So you can use different types of body movements with various leg techniques to create this type of swinging motion. So this type of swinging motion can function to improve the coordination of legs and feet. Next would be the ending kick. There's a lifting ending, a warding off ending, and a stomping ending. These would be specific examples of ending kick techniques. Looking at the concept of ending from a broader perspective, no matter which kind of technique you use, as long as the result is to sever the opponent's strength and attack, and to end his ability to continue to attack, that would satisfy the meaning of ending. Next is stamping. Stamping has the meaning of stomping downward. So whether you are using the legs to control the opponent or using legs to directly attack, as long as you are producing a type of rising up then falling down piledriver force, that will be defined as the stamping technique. So these leg techniques are meant to work with hand techniques in order to defeat the opponent. So in Yin style Bagua, the technique should be precise, refined, and pure. The hand, legs, and feet are all used in attack. So the Dui trigram monkey system in Yin style is designed to specifically train the usage of leg methods. How to use the hands to work with the legs in order to carry out attacks to enable you to be victorious. In the future, we will film the 56 leg technique forms of the Dui trigram monkey system. These forms are designed to take the techniques of lion, snake, bear, dragon, phoenix, rooster, and unicorn systems and combine them with the various leg and footwork methods of the monkey system. In this way, you will have a complete picture of this important aspect of footwork and leg techniques. We often say if you want to have complete and pure development, then you must be specialized in your training of strength. So in Yin style Bagua, we require heavy leg techniques, accurate step placement, and a very generous use of the waist and body. No matter which martial art, no matter which fighting method used, they all require the use of hands, eyes, body, method, and footwork. We take method to mean the use of the waist. So you could also say it as hands, eyes, body, waist, and footwork. The waist coordinates all parts of the body, improves the technical skill contained in movements, and adds to the accuracy and explosive power of strikes. So the coordination of the body provided by the waist helps to produce these effects. As to the footwork, there are many stepping patterns. Following the movement of the body, the feet are continually moving and adjusting position, and that will produce many different step patterns and different stances. In martial arts, it is commonly said that there are 5 basic stance types: horse stance, bow stance, crouching stance, lying stance, and empty stance. In Yin style Bagua, the fighting stance does not look much like a standard horse or bow stance. It's something in between the two. That is to facilitate changing back and forth between different stances during fighting application. In strike training, including the Yin style Bagua 1-step, 2-step, 3-step, and circle turning training methods, all are types of combined leg training methods. Individual strike training is usually first done with a zigzag pattern single-step method. The practice requirement being to first open the left foot, then bring the right foot up and step out. Opening, step up together, step out, open, together, out. This requires that the legs, whether the feet are staggered front to back or in line, and the feet must be parallel to each other. This requires of the legs, whether the feet are staggered front to back or in line, that the feet must be parallel to each other. This is in order to facilitate footwork changing from hooking in to swinging open. So this is the type of proficiency that comes from staying in the center, avoiding being too large or too small. Going according to the requirements of a particular practice method, the size of the stance and step will vary. Generally, during training of the standing strengthening postures, the stance should be a bit wide. This will help your body to be very stable, help to get the toes involved by grasping the ground, improve the upper and lower legs muscle and tendon development and toughness. It will also improve various capabilities such as endurance, explosive strength, and different types of coordinated whole body strength. So the width and height of your stance will help to decide the depth of development from elementary to advanced that you will attain through the process of training. During fighting, Yin style Bagua is known for its small stance. This helps to enable you to move easily. Your center should be able to be moved very quickly. Also, the feet should be in a staggered front to back position. The foot should be hooked in. This will help to cover the crotch. The knee hooking in will help to cover one side of the body. What this does is to present the opponent with the narrowest aspect of your body for direct attack. The requirement for the feet is that they should be kept parallel to one another. You could also stand in a modified T stance. Sometimes you will want to have the feet skewed to the side. Sometimes you will want to stand straight on. So these are the three basic stances used in training Yin style Bagua. Speaking of the zigzag stepping method, using the hand to accompany you can directly advance step. Using the hand to accompany you can directly advance step. Usually we step in feet together, then out. When training this, pay attention not to raise the foot up too high. It wants to basically slide just above the ground, keeping the feet parallel. This will help to improve your attacking speed. When the foot steps down, it should end up straight across from the base foot. It should not be positioned too far to the front or to the back. This will help you avoid a feeling of tearing apart at the hip joint, which can negatively affect your changing and coordination. So these are very important things. Also, when opening the foot, you must open it to a 90-degree angle. Open it to a full 90. Try to make your footwork very clean. This can help to improve the level of both your training and fighting. Any small mistake or imperfection in your training now can cause a lot of problems for you later on. So you must pay attention to these details when training. You could also use the arcing around step. Here I will demonstrate the arcing around step. Here I will demonstrate the arcing around step. So the zigzag step training method has three different variants that can be trained. 1. Direct advancing. 2. Feet together then separating out. Or 3. Arcing around. So you want to carry out the training and coordination of these different stepping methods. In training the four-step method, here opening, moving straight up, feet together, hook step, pull the leg back in, open the foot, hook step. What I want everyone to pay attention to is this. When advancing, open the foot 90 degrees. Very regular. Advance step out. The feet should be parallel. The stance wants to be well situated and proportional to your body size. Not too big or too small. It should be very well distributed and regular. What is different here is that you must pay attention to the back step. Half hook step. The foot comes in, then goes out at an angle. The back foot has a bit of a twisting and pushing off. So during the advancing step portion, the feet should be pointing straight ahead. During the backstepping portion, they will be pointing off at an angle. Open step to here. Back step. So you turn the feet out a bit on the back step. They should be at a different angle than the advancing step. So there's a straight on and an angled, an advance and a back step. You could also see an entering and a withdrawing. So different meanings are contained in the two types of step. This four-step method can make use of the same variance we just discussed with the zigzag step. Open, then direct advance. Stepping in together, then out. And arcing around step. You decide which of these step variants to train based on which hand technique that it is being paired with. It is similar to the way in which we train different forces with different techniques. Moving with waist, moving against waist, and pushing out of the abdomen. Also 3 variants. So pay attention to this when training the four-step method. Because the angles are different with the four-step and zigzag training methods, so there will be different effects on your balance and changes. So just training the one-step method will not guarantee proficiency with the two-step method. Each method must be specifically trained for a period of time. Following the principle of specificity of training, you can really meticulously and fully understand the different forces, coordination, and function of the feet and legs. The three-step practice method. In this method, there's a larger range of motion. Here, there's a large opening of the foot. This will help to strengthen the hip, knee, and ankle joints. Advanced stepping. You can direct the advanced step through, or first step together with the base leg, then advance out. Back stepping. Drop in height, then twist on both feet. You must be balanced when you twist and turn. Pay attention to the coordination of the legs. Both feet should be on a straight line. This will work to control your front to back and side to side balance. There must be an orderly and accurate change to adjust your center of gravity and balance. In that way, you can stay clear of the enemy's main force and strike at his weak points. You will be able to quickly carry out strike attacks to the opponent. So you must pay a lot of attention to these things. Most stepping, including the techniques I just spoke of, are all based on opening, advancing, and back stepping. So all stepping in yin style bagua is based on opening, advancing, and back stepping. You could also say that it is walking stepping, changing stepping, and turning stepping. Walking, changing, turning. In differing situations, you will combine different techniques used in different ways to work together to complete your attacking objective. Next, I will speak about the footwork that is used in circle walking. We usually start the practice off with the feet together. The main training objective of turning the circle is to be able to make complete use of your force in the midst of whirling and turning motion. Also, the effect on your legs and footwork can be directly felt because through turning the circle, stepping that is stiff can be made to be very nimble. As you are turning, the footwork will feature swinging open and hooking closed stepping. You shouldn't raise the foot too high off of the ground. Especially those who are new to the practice should pay attention to grasp the ground with the toes when stepping down. You should squat down as you turn. The two knees should rub past one another as you step. That is to say that the legs should not be separated as you step past the base leg. Whether it's technique, stepping, or force, it should all be intact, complete, and integrated. You don't want to have any scattered or disconnected aspects to what you're doing. Pay attention. While circle walking, you want to use all parts of your body to carry out training flexibly, freely, smoothly, and with facility. So at the early stages of training, circle walking will seem to be a very basic practice. But at higher levels of training, you will see that it is a very profound practice. From the moving and turning of the feet, you are carrying out many aspects of footwork training. While whirling around the circle, your balance and weight distribution between the two legs are continually being adjusted from one to the other. Sometimes the foot is pulled up along and then steps out. Sometimes the foot will push off with some force as it steps up. So there are many different ways to step. What is required is that through training stepping, that you improve the moving and shifting of your center of balance. In the midst of moving around, speaking of the upper body, there is the method of leaning, dodging towards the outside. There's also a slight leaning inward turning method. Finally, there's a straight upright, set in the middle turning method. Speaking of the center of balance, there's the center moving directly forward, there's the center lagging a bit behind, there's the center staying in the middle. For example, when turning the dragon system, the emphasis is on staying upright in the center, so the center of balance stays in between both legs. Turning rooster system, however, features a pushing off of the back leg, so the center of balance is held towards the front a little more. Note how when turning the lion system, the center tends to lag behind, concealed at the back leg. As you can see, each animal system turns the circle quite differently from all the others. Here, note how turning in the unicorn system features a leaning toward the outside of the circle. So the different animal systems are paired with different training methods. In the snake system, there is a turning being drawn in towards the center of the circle. It requires that the stepping feature a small number of steps to complete one circle. No matter which animal system you are training, you must pay close attention to the arms, waist, and upper body and how they are coordinated with the legs and footwork. In this way, you will fully be able to meet the requirements of the leg methods and footwork of Yin style Bagua. Here, I will provide some simple ways to use footwork and leg techniques to change force, which will improve many aspects of your technique application. In the use of the legs, here I'll begin with the right foot forward. So standing in a southpaw stance with the right leg forward and the left leg behind. In yin style bagua, we often say front 2, back 4. So front 2 speaks of how the front leg can be used for attack. Attacking can feature either directly stepping forward entering or back foot moving up along entering. Both are fine for this type of step. That is the first type. The second type is opening leg footwork, opening to the outside. As to opening, there's opening to the front, there's horizontal opening, cross, and returning back opening. The different positions where the foot can be placed and different angles stood at in relation to the opponent will correspond with different techniques that can be used against the opponent. So in summary, the front foot uses either advancing or opening movements. The back foot, or back 4, it usually will either angularly advance, move up next to the front leg, back withdraw step, or directly advance step forward. One of these 4 types. Through footwork, you must change the distance to the opponent. Angle stood relative to the opponent, and positioning. This will produce an appropriate point of strength for you to carry out your attack. And this will improve your odds of victory. These 6 types of steps that I've introduced, although they appear simple, in Bagua we say that 6 means change. The types of possible changes are quite numerous. So although the component types of footwork are simple, when they are combined in usage they become extremely complex. There is extensive use of angles, physics, and use of strength contained in the techniques. So for the sake of clarity, I will demonstrate some of the methods of using footwork to gain advantageous position on the opponent. Usually, in this situation, using the arms to work with the legs. First, I will step directly forward, snatching position. Then the back foot follow advances up. That's one kind. Or I could open forward. With taking position, you must keep him obstructed. You have to pay attention to the size of your stance. Not too big or too small. It should be just right for attacking the opponent. You could also step to the back of the opponent, keeping his leg in check. That's fine too. This is forcing position. There's opening forcing. There's opening to the front. Opening the foot is to allow you to continue to enter to the front. After opening the foot, you could step in and keep both of his legs closed off, or just one of his legs. So you must be clear on your objective of closing off his legs and how to carry it out. Another point, the positioning of your foot with the forcing opening step. It should be angled to the front of his foot. The distance should not be greater than the length of your foot. This is to facilitate entering to the front. Similarly, going to the back. Note how my body is able to maintain a very stable and natural state. Do not be too far away having to reach with the leg. That will negatively affect the quality of your attack and strength. When you are training, one of the reasons for the high amount of repetition of technique is so that your techniques, stances, use of legs, and body movement will become very fixed and regular. Only in that way will you be able to do as you please during application. While trying to step behind to control the opponent's leg, I want to form a triangle pattern with my foot and the opponent's feet. Stepping to here, my body should be at an angle. The opponent's body should be straight on. In this way, the angle will be advantageous and I will get a good result. Here, going to the front is the same. If I am in this position and I'm having difficulty, I can move my foot to this position and the result will be much easier. So your angle relative to the opponent can help you to change and improve your use of strength. You will be able to save a lot of effort this way, and it will improve the technical skill of the methods that you use. A good martial artist will make more use of technical skill than he will of unrestrained brute force. You should have technical skill working together with strength, combined in differing amounts depending on various circumstances. Note here how proper footwork brings me into a triangular pattern in relation to his feet. Standing in this way would be more dangerous for me. It's not that you should never step to this position. If my foot has been placed parallel to the opponent's foot, pay attention to how I bring the back foot up farther through to compensate. In this way, I can skew the opponent's center to one side. So this is one way to correct and adjust the weakness in a less than desirable or inaccurate foot placement. Capitalizing on strengths and supplementing weaknesses. So pay attention to these points. Now, when using different techniques, I can force open step here. This is forcing forward. Opening, then moving to here. You want to act in accord with your specific situation. In this case, why would I step to the center? My first burst of force being used up, and it did not hit the target. I can then continue to step through adding force. This way I can get a good result. Adjust your stepping according to the situation. Here, opening step. Going to here. Pay attention to how my feet are parallel. Also, note how my leg is inserted far enough to affect the opponent. Notice how the back of my knee is able to attack the opponent's knee, causing his knee to buckle to the outside, harming him. What I can do here is step around to the front of his back leg, or step around to the back of his back leg. Bagua places emphasis on yin and yang, so we can go in front or behind. We just talked about a horizontal opening step. You could also force forward. This is to directly attack. Of course, you can change at any time. Here's stepping to behind his leg. No matter which position you step to, make sure that your feet end up parallel to each other. This will improve your coordination and the stability of your center. Here I have a pulling back opening, making the opponent's center move forward. Continuing the attack here, note how my force moves in a different direction, changing according to different circumstances. I've been speaking of the front foot. As for the back foot, usually when I'm getting resistance from the opponent, I will step in this way to add strength to my technique. The changes of the back leg when added to the front leg are unlimited. First, stepping to here to add strength. The feet should be parallel here as well. As we say in Yin-style Bagua, the footwork should be very agile. The hands should be very tightly put together. So the feet should be able to nimbly move at any time in accord with the situation, adjusting according to the differing circumstances. Of course, you have to have a grasp of listening skill and have the ability to change your technique. Here, in order to directly advance an attack, you could first advance with the back leg, then step up with the front leg. If you move up a bit with the back leg, then adjust back into a fighting stance by moving up the front leg. Or bring the back foot up, then step behind the opponent's leg with your front foot. Or coming up to here, then step in front of his leg. Any of these are fine. Scooping his leg here, hooking and scooping back. But you must be clear and accurate about what you're doing. Whether you're stepping behind or in front, you've got to be clear on the objective, where you should be striking, and how the hands will be used with what you are doing. You should never just blindly enter in with footwork. If the opponent attacks with a great deal of strength, moving with and transforming the opponent's force, I backstep here, withdrawing, backstepping. I had just mentioned entering in this way after advancing the front foot to advantageous position. Similarly here, I won't move the front foot though. I'll begin by moving the back foot to gain proper position. The reasoning is the same though. Watch the backstepping here. Sometimes I may horizontally backstep, then moving in. It worked well because I was at a proper distance from the opponent. If I'm far away, I use this inserting backstep. This will help to adjust the distance from the opponent and improve my ability to carry out an attack. Here's a direct advancing in. The back leg directly advances in as my arms carry out a covering motion. You want to make sure that your footwork is coordinated with your technique. Going according to your situation, whether you're opening horizontally, dodging away, or directly moving forward with the foot, they are all categorized as moving. So taking one step we call movement. Moving more than one foot we call changing. This is changing. This is changing. You must pay attention to the specific position that the feet land in when you step. It must be appropriate. Also, through appropriate stepping, note how you can change the strength of the opponent. For example, as I'm entering in, I slightly lean in with my hip. He resists against my force, and I change in turn. As we say, if he is committed with a horizontal force, he won't be able to produce a vertical force to resist as well. That's one point of change. Also, I could lean his weight onto his back leg, then change. So during the changing of strength, pay attention to adjust according to judgment based on your experience and sensitivity, which will tell you whether the opponent's center is on his front leg, back leg, or in between the two. This will help to improve your striking ability. When striking, note the changes between round and straight, fast and slow, hard and soft, long and short. Now I'll talk about applying the bending leg technique of yin style bagua. The first thing about leg techniques is how to use them. You can directly use the legs to hurt or destroy the opponent. For example, with the bending kick, I can directly attack the ankle joint. A kick there will harm the opponent. Kicking here, to the ankle, or to the Weizhong point on the bladder meridian. Kicking higher up at the knee is fine too. When kicking to the front of the opponent, you must have a strong degree of concealment to your kick. In yin style bagua, we usually say that you should never kick higher than the knees, but you want to be flexible in your usage. That is a general guideline, not a hard and fast rule. So most of the time you should kick no higher than the knee. Of course, if I'm in this situation, I can kick directly to the opponent's spine. Why? Because he is defenseless in the back. Also, I have his arm tied up, so this will give a good result. Of course, when kicking to his front, he has arms that will block, so you must pay attention. So these are direct action uses of the bending kick. Here are some examples of different uses of bending the leg. So what this technique amounts to is going from a straight leg to a bent leg. That is the bending technique. From here, this is also a bending leg, just another type. So they rely on the leg bending to attack the opponent. Here's bending forward. This is also bending. After bending, then springing straight. So I had just mentioned this technique includes any usage of the leg after bending it. Here, another use of a bending leg. Here, bending the leg, then using the knee to strike the huantiao point on the gallbladder meridian. You could call this a knee strike, or you could call it a bending technique from our leg methods. Here's another application of bending leg. These are all direct action methods of using the knee to strike after bending the leg. So this bending leg can be described as any usage of the leg after the leg is bent. It can also be described as using the tip of the toes to point strike the opponent. We often use it in this way. Angularly point kicking. You make contact with the tips of the toes, then push it into the opponent. These are all types of bending leg attacks. So during your training, you not only want to look at specific meanings of techniques, you also want to investigate their broader meaning. So for this bending leg technique, its meaning is pluralistic. It can be used for direct action striking. It can also be used to work with the body and waist, hand techniques, and fighting methods to attack the opponent. So it can be used to help improve all aspects of your fighting level. Stomping. The stomping kick. Again, we'll start with showing some direct action attacking. You can hooking in stomp kick. You could also swinging open stomp kick. In Yin style Bagua, we also have a side body stomp kick. Clearing the opponent's arm away, then stomping. I could also pull his arm and then stomp. This will produce a tearing effect on the opponent. Here, going towards his back. The stomping kick works with the hand technique to subdue the opponent. Here, the stomping kick adds force to the seizing technique. So the result will be different when combined with a stomp kick. The stomping kick can be used in many situations. Here, if the opponent overpowers me. A climbing back stomp. It is very easy to surprise the opponent with this kick. Hook step in, then stomp. Quickly execute the stomp kick after bending your leg. Note that the stomping kick is defined as using the whole bottom of the foot to attack with the force concentrated at the heel. It is different from the bending kick, which focuses your strength at the tips of the toes, then pushes forward and enters the opponent. You must be aware of the different special features of these techniques. The springing leg technique. I will introduce 3 different types of springing leg techniques. We usually describe the springing leg as an extending straight motion of the leg after it has been bent. It is primarily a continuation of force, a sudden springing shooting of strength that attacks and dissipates the opponent's center of balance and center of gravity. It is mostly used in a situation where your leg is inserted between the opponent's legs. The first type that I'll introduce. Going to here. Note how my leg is bent, and I execute a springing leg. You must have a proper angle. Here, don't get too close. The crook of the back of your knee should be kept about a fist's width from the opponent's leg. The reason is that you have to conceal your intent to use a springing leg. You shouldn't advance on the opponent and lean your leg immediately into his. You won't be able to use the technique then, and the opponent could spring attack your leg to counter. So you should first step down, stepping down without committing your weight to the foot. That will give the opponent a false signal that you have moved your center in. Only then can you commit to the spring leg technique and knock the opponent down. When the opponent is standing in a high stance, I will want to spring him well in a low stance. Conversely, when the opponent is standing in a low stance, it would be difficult for me to use the same spring leg attack. So I will go to here and spring attack his crotch to cause him to move his center forward and facilitate a knockdown. That was the second type. The third type. In a situation when the opponent has entered and isn't standing stable, I can use a springing force to knock him down. That's springing. You have to pay attention to find the sweet spot and time your attack just right. That is to say, the opponent has stepped down but is not quite yet set and stable. If he's already stepped down and committed his weight and is very stable, you won't have a very good result. If he has stepped down but not committed his weight to the leg, you won't be able to execute your springing attack with a full sunken force. So you must pay attention to the technical skill in the springing technique, especially having a good grasp of timing. The hip technique. As far as direct attacking, first would be to kick the shin bone. Make sure to use the back of the heel. So in this way, if the opponent punches, I will directly kick attack, kicking low to the shin or mid-level to the knee. Higher up, I can kick the xue hai point on the thigh. Kicking low, the aim is to damage or break the shin bone. So these are examples of inside hip attack methods. You can also attack with the outside of the hip. In this situation, this would be an example of an outside hip attack. So that is a method of using the hip to attack. Then there is also a kicking out, then using the hip to hook in. Kicking out, then scooping back in. This attack can cause damage to the adductor muscle on the inside of the thigh. So this hip attack method has the idea of going out, then hooking back in. You could also say that the motion is a bit similar to our harvesting seizing attack in the lion system, only in this case we're using the legs to carry out the attack. Again, I can also use here to hip attack. I'm using it as a direct strike to attack the opponent. You can use this to shift the opponent's center and center of gravity to defeat him. Here are some other situations where the hip technique can be used. This is the use of the hip technique. I use the hands to work with the scooping motion of the leg. So there are many variants to the hip technique. The most commonly used, however, are the inside and outside hip attacks. We also commonly use a straight-on, then reversing direction hip attack. Each of these produces quite a different result from the others in application. The chopping leg technique. There are many ways to use the chopping kick. The main areas of your leg used to carry out a chopping attack are the front, side, and back of the lower leg. In simple terms, that is a basic chopping kick. Of course, you can chop kick to many different positions on the opponent. The lower leg, the upper leg, the kidneys. In Yin style Bagua, we chop kick to the lower two targets most often, using the front part of the shin. Sometimes we also chop kick with the side of the lower leg like this. That type of attack. The force of the kick should be very full and sunken. It should be like the force of attacking by swinging a staff. Note here how the body movement coordinates with the kick. Try to make the movement of the body large. Here is another type of chopping kick. That is utilizing the back of the lower leg to chop the opponent. You should focus your attack against the opponent's joint, to the side of the joint. The objective is to not only break the bones, but also to damage connective tissue. We also have a smashing down chopping attack in addition to others. Which type of chopping attack you will use will depend on the circumstances of the situation you are in with the opponent. In this situation, I can use a smashing chop kick. Using this portion of the lower leg to attack with. Do not chop with the upper portion of the leg towards the calf. The result will not be very good. So for the chopping kick, I want to emphasize its direct attack striking aspect. In this situation, chop kick. This variant of the chopping kick is a little like when a horse leans and kicks back up. With this technique, because the leg kicks up high, you must have a great degree of concealment of the technique. As you are moving to set up the kick, it must not be obvious to the opponent. All kicks must be concealed. You will get the best result by avoiding telegraphing your intent to kick to the opponent by leaning back or to the side in preparation before the kick is delivered. Next, I will talk about the swinging leg attack. Well, as the name implies, this kick involves swinging from side to side. For example, this is a swinging kick. Kicking from here to here, that's swinging. It requires you to be very agile. So there's a motion of swinging to and fro. So the swinging attack can be used to any position on the opponent. The technique I described earlier for the hip kick, that would be a hip swinging kick because the force you're using, it is a swinging force. So swinging describes a type of movement. It can be used with many different types of leg techniques for attack. I can point bending kick, then swing into a stomping kick. That's fine to use. Point bending kick, swinging into another point bending kick. Any of these can be used in a swinging attack. This is fine too. A pull, then a stomping kick. That also has the meaning of swinging. So no matter which type of leg technique that you use with the swinging motion, it should have a back and forth force, emphasizing a light then heavy attack. The ending attack method. Looked at from a broad perspective, the ending attack will work with the bending, stomping, springing, hip, chopping, and swinging attack methods to end the opponent. Speaking of the specific usage of the technique, it works to intercept and stop the opponent. It can be used proactively or reactively. Here I can use a kicking ending technique, using a carrying arm with a kicking stopping technique. Here moving the foot to both the inside or the outside in an ending motion. two ways to execute an ending attack to the opponent. Intercepting the opponent's leg as he goes to move his foot in order to adjust to this carrying arm attack. I intercept him and end him there, not letting his leg move forward. Or a direct kicking ending, kicking to harm the opponent's shin bone. Here I am using a stepping on ending kick. These are the basic types of ending kick. They can be used in combination with different hand techniques. Hip kicking to his front leg, then ending kick to the back leg. These are all acceptable variants. So you want to react according to the situation as to how to best intercept and stop the opponent. In usage, this is also a type of ending technique. With this ending technique, you must pay attention to applying pressure with your knee against his xuehai pressure point. In that way, you will see a good result. Applying your force to a small focus point of pressure for maximum leverage. Applying the technique in this way, the opponent will be startled. So that intercepts and startles the opponent and causes him to react with alarm or panic. This will achieve the objective of the ending attack. You want to use ending to break and intercept any type of technique that he may attack you with. The stamping attack. The stamping attack has the meaning of halting or stamping out. It can mean that you yourself halt. It can also mean that the opponent halts. So this is the last stage in a fighting situation. There are many ways to carry out a stamping attack. Using this part of the foot to attack, it is different from the stomping attack in that only the heel is used as opposed to the whole bottom of the foot. Stamping, stepping on the opponent. So step down on the opponent, then stamp. You could also use a twisting stamping. After stepping down here, turning the foot. So the idea is to twist and break the top of the opponent's foot. There's a type of a grinding force that is used. So here, stepping on the opponent's leg, then stamping downward. Making sure to use the heel to attack. There is a contracting force. As we often talk about during technique training, there's a shocking force. These are components of the stamping force. There's the meaning of halting and contracting, like a pile driver. You could also use the knee to stamp. Here, dropping the knee. That is also a type of stamping. Here is a smashing, stamping downward movement, using the hip to attack. So in this way, combining together leg and footwork usage to accomplish the objective of this stamping attack. In this way, you will have a complete representation of the ways to use legs and footwork. So you can not only use techniques by themselves for victory, you can also use them in combination with other techniques. As we say, the arms are two doors. The feet are used to defeat the opponent. So the arms can be used to work with the legs to gain victory. Your technique should be refined, detailed, and pure. And the hands and feet should both be used to defeat the opponent. Talking about the footwork. Starting with the front leg. There is stepping directly forward. There is horizontal opening, directly entering to the front. In Yin style Bagua, we usually do this with the penetrating palm, forcing position to the front. The Bagua dragon system also commonly uses this method. Again, a crowding step in with a penetrating palm. Here's direct advance attacking in Dragon system. Of course, if you know direct attacking in, you should also know withdrawing back. You can withdraw the foot to attack as well. Withdrawing your foot back is to help the opponent lose his balance. Advancing forward footwork is a more proactive attacking method. Withdrawing, stepping away, is to control and make use of the opponent's strength in a more reactive fashion, taking his strength and extending it out long. So Yin-style Bagua has the penetrating palm, Dragon system, and includes a rushing fist. Mostly techniques for forcing position in the center. But in fighting, what Yin-style Bagua really emphasizes is opening horizontally and entering angularly, closing off the straight-on position and forcing position from an angle. This is the safest way for attack. What it can do is to help you to avoid the opponent's heavy attacks and only let the light ones connect. Now I will talk about how hand techniques work together with footwork. Some footwork is designed to move along with the opponent's force. Some is designed to add strength to your own techniques. For example, with this feet coming together stance, that will help add strength to the pulling down arm motion. In some situations, you want to close or hold off the opponent. In those cases, you will want to use moving up together step. Note how the front foot advances, then the back foot follows up along. This helps you to maintain your balance and to act as a force deterrent to the opponent. So these are the situations in which to use the moving up together step. It is the fastest advancing footwork method. It can be used as a direct advancing or as advancing around to the side of the opponent to keep him threatened. There are many ways to use the moving up together step. So this would be a method of using the front leg. Another footwork method would be the forcing open step. So the idea here is to force position on the opponent in order to open his defenses. Sometimes you can force off to the side with the back leg. That is also advancing forcing position. This is fine too. Any of these can be used to force position on the opponent. Here are some points to pay attention to with the forcing step. If the opponent has a lot of strength, this is an angular step, removing the opponent's force in order to lead him out off of his route. Sometimes you move along with his direction of attack. Sometimes you want to transform his force in another direction. So the direction that the arms move in will help the footwork to divert the opponent's force. You want to make him lose his balance. This is why you want to work to improve your footwork and its application. Again, here's an empty opening. The foot opens while the arm is transforming and removing the opponent's strength. I use the arm movement to coordinate the amount of swinging open of the leg. Here, after drawing out the opponent, I use a back step. Backstepping. There are many ways that the movement of the body will change when working with the stepping. For one, it will cut down on the amount of strength the opponent is able to use. Also, it will cause him to lose his balance. Third, it will help you to make the best use of power in your technique by being at the best possible angle. In Yin-style Bagua, we often say that as soon as the hands make contact, the feet must move. It is moving and turning. Moving and turning here. I'm using stepping to move my body out of the way in order to throw the opponent. And also moving the opponent into a position where he will lose his balance. Moving here with this step. This technique relies extensively on footwork. I take appropriate position through the use of footwork. Here the stepping will take care of the direct attacking force of the opponent. It is a type of moving in order to force position on the opponent. Another type will be moving directly to the front here in order to force position. Note here how good stepping and gaining position can produce the same knockdown result as directly placing your leg behind the opponent's leg in order to knock him down. So the effects produced by footwork are extremely important. So I often say that you must have the hands, eyes, body, waist, and footwork all coming into play. So here I want to emphasize how important it is for everyone to be hardworking in their training of footwork. 1. The hands and feet must be in harmony. 2. They must be coordinated. 3. You must know the effect produced by the use of the feet and legs. You must know where exactly to place the feet in order to gain the best result. So here, note how I advance step, then back step. Note how when this is applied it produces a whirling force. Here I can add in kicking techniques. Bending, point kicking, stomping. Any of those could be used. The main thing is being conscious of how the hands work with the feet. Sometimes I can directly advance step in. Note how the feet end up parallel to one another. Sometimes I will directly advance step forward. The feet are parallel and slightly skewed to an angle. There are many types of and uses for footwork in Yin-style Bagua. The stepping methods will actively work to keep the 2 feet parallel, adjusting the feet in relation to one another. And the feet will mutually support one another and work together to execute change of force and gain stable and advantageous position. Here I'd like to talk about the stepping patterns contained within the forms of Yin-style Bagua. Each animal system has 7 at times quite different and at times quite similar combined footwork patterns in each of its forms. So when training, you should unite the leg and footwork methods with your forms training in order to deepen your understanding of the footwork and leg methods. Making contact with the opponent, I simply turn a circle around him. Again, making contact with the opponent, I circle step around, using 1 or 2 steps to get around. Either way is fine. First moving my back leg, then moving the front leg is also fine. You will select which way to move the feet based on how you are accustomed to training and also based on what works best with the particular hand technique that you are employing. As far as moving stepping, I'll conclude my discussion here. Next, I'll talk about changing footwork. So the footwork has moving, changing, and turning. Here's an example of changing footwork. As the footwork changes, it causes the leg to give the opponent a feeling of being hooked in. Note that I talked earlier about keeping the feet parallel to one another. They're also parallel here. This is a moving with parallel. This is a moving against parallel. This is a moving with parallel. This is a moving against parallel. So in this technique, there has to be a very obvious coordination between the legs and feet. That is closing off the opponent's leg. Sometimes I cannot close off his leg. Then I change in order to trap it in that case. This is also a type of changing. This is also a type of changing. So changing is extremely varied and flexible. So you will pair differing hand techniques with the appropriate type of movement of the footwork. Changing can be broken down into many categories. The direction of the feet in your stance, for example, a hooking instep changing to a pointing straight ahead orientation. In this case, the feet changing from here to here is also a type of change. In the execution of this throw, note my stance change. What is this change? A small stance changing to a larger, longer stance. That is also a type of change. So you want to think in broad terms. Here, changing from going after the front leg to attacking his rear leg. Here, moving out, then returning to attack the front leg again. That is trapping his leg, changing into a throw. This is also changing. So when training, you want to open your mind and make your changes very lively. You don't want to be inflexible in your usage of the various techniques. Pay attention to your stances, footwork, and change use of force when striking and throwing. This is changing. Next is turning. In Yin style Bagua, we say that taking 3 or more steps is considered turning. Here, establish contact, then 1, 2, 3. This is turning. Here, making contact, going to here is scooping his leg. This is changing. It is also a type of turning. It really just depends on how you look at it. In this situation, stepping to here, then coming back. This is a turning change. The feet are constantly in motion, changing. Here in this technique, 1, 2, 3. This is also a type of turning. It is the body movement that brings the legs and feet into a turning change. Sometimes turning appears in the movement of the feet. Sometimes, as in this case, it is the hip and leg that turns. Note the turning of the hip. Sometimes it is the feet and force that will turn. So these are the aspects of turning that you must pay attention to. This is also turning. I use a kick with an arcing turning movement. It has a round arc of motion. Many times we will unite turning and changing during application. Going to here, then changing. Or moving my foot to here, then changing. When using this, you must take the appropriate position. Always taking the appropriate position. Note the positioning I take with the hooking instep. Note carefully the positioning of my foot here. I hook step in, then turn. It will give yet a different result. Turning must unite with body movement and use of legs, and implement different types of stepping. While implementing the footwork and leg techniques, you must pay attention to how the body movement and hand technique being used work together with the footwork to carry out attack. The direction of force, use of angles, and positioning are all extremely important. For example, if I close off his front leg, I can move him in this direction, in a horizontal direction. I could also send him back in the direction of the heel of my foot is facing. That is the best implementation. With this technique, using the leg is a moving against type of strength. Not only is there a straight striking, at the same time as the straight striking there is a slight change to a round motion. A straight striking technique with a round emitting a force. That will give you an even better result. With this technique, you want to move in a horizontal line and also have a shift to the vertical. So there's a crisscrossing of the footwork. In this situation, with my leg closing off the opponent's, I want to use strength in this direction, then change in that direction in order to harm the opponent. So Yin style Bagua will commonly use a second force in the techniques. This second force could be a short force changing to a long force, a hard strength changing to a pliant strength, or a pliant strength changing to a hard strength. Or it could be an extension of the same strength. The first burst of power being over, immediately follow up with more strength. These are all components that make up what is a second force. Sometimes you have a straight technique motion with a round force. Sometimes you have a round motion of the technique that hits with a straight force. So these are things to pay attention to. Here, moving to this angle. Now my stepping changes, and I begin to apply force straight in this direction. Then change to apply it back around. This will cause a tearing sensation in the opponent and will twist him into an uncomfortable angle. In this technique, I am pulling his arm down, then taking it around in an arc. So pull it down, then around. Note that when pairing up the technique with footwork, that there should also be changes in the hand technique as you execute, which help an already rooted and stable stance to have an even better implementation. Because once the foot gets into position, it then is in a state of stillness. So at that point, you require the arms to move. This will give you a union of movement and stillness in your technique. In that way, you will fully make use of the Bagua characteristic of movement and stillness, emptiness and fullness, and the changes between hard and soft. Techniques that are strictly executed and well knit, footwork that is very nimble. These are the specialties of Bagua. Sometimes when you are executing a technique, you want to pay a close attention to the closing off of the opponent's leg. Here I am leaning him forward, making his center of balance shift to one leg. I move along and turn across, throwing him down. So you have to pay attention to the movement and change of his center of balance. And that way you can improve your attacking ability. Your body should at any time have closing in, helping out, squeezing tight, and leaning in, forces available to add to the attack. At the same time as you execute closing in, helping out, squeezing tight, and leaning in, you must be aware of listening to, feeling, and having a grasp of the changes in the opponent's force. And that way you will get a good result from the implementation of your leg techniques. Changing and turning are mutually interrelated and work with each other. Sometimes in the midst of changing, there is turning. Sometimes in the midst of turning, there will be change. Sometimes you yourself will turn. At other times, the opponent will turn. Sometimes you will change. At other times, you will cause the opponent to change. For example, I make contact, step to here, then change. I could also move to here. When I pause here, I must choose the type of change. Will I go to the front or back? You could also use a hooking leg motion and a moving against force. Sometimes you could directly move in and close off the opponent. You must go according to the movement of your body and feet to judge the type of change to be used. So this will help to improve your ability to train and understand, and serve to improve your fighting ability. Sometimes with turning, you make the opponent uncomfortable, cause his body to be twisted around, and then he is uncomfortable. This is turning around to the back of the opponent. Here is turning to the front of the opponent. So you cause the opponent to twist and turn in this case. So this is an important part of what makes up the turning component of Yin-style Bagua. When you cause the opponent to turn, be it his body turning or his arm turning, it is all considered part of the turning aspect of the art. You need to make sure that at the same time you are using leg methods to also combine in hand techniques in order to deepen your knowledge and understanding of turning. There are different types of placement positions for the feet. In some instances, it is best to step down with the toes first. In other cases, you may want to step down first with the heel. And sometimes it is best to step down with the whole bottom of the foot. In Yin-style Bagua, stepping down with the whole bottom of the foot is the preferred method in most cases. For example, in this instance, I close off the opponent's leg and the foot steps down stable and full. Note that the feet must grasp the ground with the toes. In some cases, the heel should step down first. You could think of this method as a bit like stepping down on part of the foot, then sliding the rest of the way into position. This method is designed to work with the use of the springing leg technique. Sometimes you should step down with the toes first. This is also to work with the leg method, in this case, the bending leg technique. So going according to differing circumstances, in this case, the whole bottom of the foot steps down. Then from here I can change. That is fine too. This is the idea that I had mentioned of the stance changing from small to large, and of the force changing from a horizontal to a vertical force. Note how the use of the feet coordinates and works together with the hand technique being executed. It is often said that if the technique has been executed but the foot still has not arrived in position, that you have stolen your technique rather than learning it properly. So this point must remind us all of the importance and necessity of the harmony of hands and feet in execution. So be sure to unite this point with all of your practice methods. Also note the positioning of the foot when closing off the opponent's leg. If my foot ends up in line with his, I should adjust it forward a bit. The opponent is made uncomfortable in this way. If my other foot is more forward positioned, then I would step to here. Note that my leg is positioned to close off his leg at the back of his knee joint. The other way around, note how I am controlling his hip joint. By closing off his waist and hips, you are attacking his center. So in that way, it is easy for the opponent to lose his balance. So with different stepping patterns, you will practice different types of footwork. Sometimes, when closing off his leg, you will want to position the foot tightly. So positioning the foot tightly in is one way to do the job. Another type is to position the foot farther away, apart from the opponent's leg. So that would be placing your leg far away and sending him over to it. Leave him some room to move. Sometimes you will move your foot back into the inside. Crowd him out of the position that he wants to occupy in order to implement this footwork. When training and using leg techniques, you must pay attention to your sense of positioning. It is extremely important. For example, as I'm forcing open to the middle of the opponent's front foot, I will get an obvious result by closing off just one of the opponent's legs. If I want to close off one or both of the opponent's legs, when I step, I should take a position in front of him such that my foot forms a triangle with both of his feet. Then I can continue stepping to here or here. And that way you will not lose center position. When closing off one leg by moving to the rear, taking position to the side, again forming a triangle. Here closing off the leg. If in the midst of application, I move to this position, in this way I can close off both legs. You want to draw support from the whirling and turning of the body and the technique which you are applying to work together with your footwork. Sometimes you will open your foot such that it is basically parallel. So this footwork is like the three-step practice method. Here, note how I position my foot forward so as to form a triangle with both of the opponent's feet. So in a case like this where your back foot starts off in a less than desirable position, you can compensate by bringing the front leg farther forward. Note how I step to about a foot length away from the opponent here. If my foot is parallel to his, I can move my leg in and horizontally close the opponent off. Here, closing off on a horizontal line from behind. So you must pay a great deal of attention to the alternating of and sense of positioning in controlling the opponent's legs. Here, controlling his legs by stepping horizontally across. My base leg can be positioned directly to the side of the opponent's foot. If you don't have a good sense of where to position your foot, you can always use a fast moving with step to adjust. Move your back foot up next to the base foot, then step out again. That will help to give you a good result. There are some techniques that you can train specifically with the moving up with step. Sometimes when doing this, your back leg will lift up and step. Other times it will drag along behind. What is the difference between the two? Lifting up the leg will improve your attacking speed, whereas dragging the leg behind will add to the sunkenness and stability of your strength. So the differing usage of footwork and legs will yield completely different results, as there are completely different objectives. So bear these things in mind. Another thing, the footwork and leg techniques of yin-style bagua are contained in the hand techniques. So through training and gaining experience, you will realize that when you go to use leg techniques, you must not telegraph them to the opponent. When you use them, the opponent should not be able to see them coming and will be unaware of what you are doing. That is the objective of these techniques. Whether or not the usage of your legs is successfully concealed has a great deal to do with how your hand techniques and body movement are involved. That's to say, hand techniques play a vital role in whether or not our bending, stomping, springing, hip, chopping, swinging, stamping, and ending techniques can be successfully executed. What do I mean when I say our leg techniques are concealed? I go to strike him. He intercepts. I withdraw my arm, but not my leg. A point bending strike. Here, if you like this point bending kick, is how you can drill it in practice. Bend the leg in, then shoot it out. As I have said before, the force should be sent out to the tip of the toes, then pushed into the opponent. So, talking about the concealed nature of the kicks. Here, carry attacking the arm, then kicking. Not only can I throw him with this carry attack, I can also point bending kick to the front. Here's a stomping kick. Draw him out, transform his force, then stomp kick. Stomp kicking to either knee is fine. A direct stomping down is fine too. The foot can be used in either position. Kicking to his front or back legs. So if you can make sure to tie up the opponent, then you will get an even better result. Here with the seizing technique, tying up the opponent. Then I get a good result with a kick. You want to tie in different hand techniques and types of body movement to help in the execution of your kicks. Here are some examples of the hands and feet both striking at the same time. Attacking simultaneously high and low. Again, you can drill this during practice. Use strength when the foot drops. Kicking out at his shin, then sliding down the shin and stamping on his foot. Here's how you can drill the hooking kick. Step down, then twist on the foot and hook kick up. Here in usage, notice how I also pivot on the base foot and hook kick. The pivoting is for a reason. Note the result I get in application when I pivot as I kick. Note that kicks are not only used in straight attacks, they can also be used to attack in a whirling fashion. So pay attention to these things. Again, here's one of the ways you could drill this kick in individual practice. Munbajan was most noted for his bending, stomping, and back kicks, these three kicks. Depending on what you like to train, you can work lots of side stomping kicks, climbing stomping kicks. You could train them in place, in zigzag step patterns, box step, or three-step methods, or even in forms. You take out the components that you like, work on them, clean them up. Basically train the things you like repeatedly until you feel like you've gotten to the point where practice has made perfect. So that's to say you place emphasis on the techniques that you like to use, give them diligent study and bitter hard practice, thereby adding depth to your understanding. The bottom line is that you have to practice a lot. You can choose which kicks to train and apply according to your own personal preference. You can train these kicks in varying amounts at various heights. You can choose to train a diverse array of different kicks or focus on just a few. Here I will demonstrate a few examples. When training kicks, you can fold the arms in front or hold them behind your back. Holding the arms in these ways makes it more difficult to stand stable, thereby training your balance. The point bending kick. I step down, kick out, bring the leg back. Point the foot out straight, hold it out strongly. Shooting out with the strength of the thigh and lower leg. This is a straight-on point bending kick. Here's an angular point bending kick. Place the foot down and kick. Training this is similar to how we work strikes. Here's the stomping kick. Bend the body in, then straighten out and stomp kick. That will help to add in the straightening, extending strength of your whole body into the kick. Kick and extend straight. Kick and extend straight. Make sure to apply force with the heel. Here's another type of stomping kick, the rising stomp. Here you're using the thighs, lifting the legs straight up to kick. This is a little like some of our arcing upward hand techniques, but here the force goes straight out. There's no need to raise the leg up too high here. This is the rising stomp kick. Now here's a point stomp kick. This one is a little more difficult to do. You point attack and then stomp out. You point attack and then stomp out. This trains the upper leg. One way to emit force once the leg is already in an elevated position. Here is a hip kick. Stepping down and hooking up. Adding in hand movements that work along with this kick. Now I'll demonstrate a springing kick. Stepping out, then springing. Stepping out, then springing. The body movement here features a dodging body technique. This technique also appears in some of our forms. For now, I'll just introduce these few simple techniques.